What up, random rockers? So here's what's going on. I've listened to a bunch of albums. By the time you get, of course, planned on doing 4 separate reviews, but realized how it was, due to time constraints, that was a bad idea. So I'm just going to put them all into one review. 3 albums that came out this week, as well as 1 specific request that came out maybe a week or 2 ago. To the said person who's requested this, or recommended it to me, you'll know when you know. I'll probably even send it to you through Messenger since we're pretty tight. But anyways, and there are a couple other requests that have been on the bin that I apologize to those for, but this is just a case of it being a 2023 release, so bear with me on it. So we're gonna start with Ghost Hounds. First Last Time. Honestly, just kind of found out about this like a week or 2 ago. And specifically this song I just played, Last Train to Nowhere. And I found out, and it's a blues rock band, and I found out about them on a country station. Of all things. Well, you could say that in a way. We could thank Chris Stapleton for allowing certain blues bands to kind of be able to read, if they have a certain country element to them, to kind of cross over to country stations, I guess. You could maybe thank Stapleton for that, because he brought a little more blues into his style and his particular style of country and whatnot. But anyways, I know it's blues rock though, so technically it's still in this case, it's still. And I might be on a slight kick of trying to find a good country as someone who's been very disappointed in that genre for about a decade or so, maybe 2. 2000s can be iffy. As a 90s country kid, I was kind of a little disappointed in how iffy the 2000s were, and even more so how the 2010s turned out to be, at least for mainstream, for the most part, with the exception of Stapleton and so on, and some more underground country here and there. So when hearing this, I was kind of like, this sounds good. I even recommended it to a buddy, been while tailgating on his work truck, all this stuff, yeah. And yeah, this band has been around a while, since around 2019, and this is somehow the first time I've known about them. Though I think I might have known about this band in passing when it came to. I think they might have done some song with Brad Paisley, maybe, and that it was like had a music video attached to it. That somehow wound up on some station, some TV station thing that was at a local Texas Roadhouse. So so maybe my knowledge of this band is probably around then. I could be wrong. Don't quote me on the Texas Roadhouse thing. But I do know it was a K103. It was a local radio station that was happening to play while I was dealing with a certain thing with my a certain celebration of life for my uncle. For those who've seen my Better Lovers review and my little spiel with that, more to that. That's kind of how through that, and being it was a country station because it's my family most of my family is in. We're a blue-collar small town area, so country's going to be a thing, at least amongst some of us white folks. But even though I usually roll my eyes at most of what's mainstream, but I'm happy this is, and it's really a blues rock group. That's most of the time when it's not being country-ish. country adjacent, sounding more like the Black Crowes. At least like when they were kind of good in the 90s. Or at least like that second record they did, it kind of makes me think of that era Black Crowes. But, you know, less white and stuff. Ow! Or like way like more legit bluesy, like Stapleton's saying, and less white man blues-ish, I guess you could say. And the Dirty Angels, like when it comes to like Dirty Angel First Last Time and Make It Shake, definitely was one of those. I think the weakest track to me is Hot Dog on this thing. And they have a cover of, I believe, John Denver, Country Roads. And it's not bad. It's not reinventing the wheel. This band, hell, this entire album isn't reinventing the wheel of blues rock or anything. Or is not doing what I kind of been enjoying out of, like, you know, Jerry Clark Jr. or something. But I don't hate what I've heard here. I like it, and it's an easy recommend. I think, I believe it was like Love You Too Hard or like Chasing You, Not Here No More. That has started to have moments that are more country-ish-esque. I believe Dirty Angel and the title track were singles for this thing. Maybe the Country Roads cover, which isn't bad, you know, if you want to, something that's not too far off from its original, but seems kind of better. Check this out, you know? I'll check this entire album out. It's not bad. Or I might give the rest of their discography a shot. At some point. Given how much I've listened to other things. So hell, that might be the theme of this one too. With the exception of one particular band. Since I've already have with one of them. And yeah, overall, light to strong thumbs up. Possibly bordering into light horns territory. Very enjoyable blues rock on the bluesier side of it, but in a way that also kind of bordered the Dumb's country adjacent-ish. You know? Not bad! Not bad! Moving on to Lucero. Should have learned by now. Sorry, I had to make sure I stopped at something before I, got to deal with a copyright issue. It's YouTube, you know. But yeah, this is a country punk, or cowpunk is another term for the genre, / country, alternative country rock-based act. Definitely has a very outlaw country-ish element in there, in this mixed with the punk and alternative stuff, and definitely a sort of some maybe western-ish elements, especially within the piano and keys and stuff. And even there's like an accordion on one of these tracks. But yeah, this has been a band that's been around since the 2000s. They definitely would fit in with their Drive-By Truckers, your Uncle Tupelos, and early Wilco, and a lot of Sunvolt and stuff like that. It would fit in as one of those, and they're definitely more punk than I would say country. It just so happens that it's like the vocal style, especially in the vocal style, which I think is a make or break for some people, because I think the musicianship and those musical ideas here are awesome to me. Definitely up my alley. And you know it's more outlaw country-ish because they're country meets punk rock kind of vibe, because it's very... one of your first tracks is One Last F You. At the she lead... the title track's fine. Raining for Weeks. I actually, it's hard to really, for me, pinpoint what is a better song. And whether or not, and since it's my first time with this band, anyone who is a Lucero fan that sees this somehow, some way, what albums do you recommend to me? Besides, the man who requested this was like, man, we will call him by his alias of Running Horse. I like to call him Horsepower. We'll go by, like, for his, his last, it's a running gag with me and him and a few of our friends we bum around with. And we've been talking in, like, more alternative country stuff, if not, like, straight up metal and stuff. This is how I know about this, And I'm glad he told me about this. I didn't realize he did tell me at the party, because I was kind of drunk at the time, and luckily, and I stayed there at the time too. So don't worry about it. I don't promote the drink and driving. Nothing's alright. It's pretty good. There's definitely a lot of your twangly guitars, a little bit. Definitely has, like, it's possible they might have been influenced by X a little bit at points, or at least some elements of John Doe specifically, but maybe. Yeah, the show's pretty good. She Leaves Me. Macron, if we make it. And they have good lead work too, guitar-wise and all this kind of stuff. And yeah, I think if you like if you're interested in the genre of country punk, but want a more on the punk rock side, and alternative side of it, and that happens to just incorporate that more twangy country rock element to it, if not outlaw country as well, elements, at least in attitude. This is definitely a pretty good recommend. I actually really enjoyed this. I'd say it's also another light, strong thumbs up that could also be that's potentially gonna be maybe a light horns up. I wouldn't say it's album of the year contender or anything, but it's a fun record to me, for what it is. I could tell it's kind of niche, because usually country punk is. Some alternative country can be, not all. Jason Isbell technically is. And so are Sunvolt and stuff, and they're pretty good, an easier recommend. So yeah. Definitely enjoyed my first listen with this. So, and give me some, like, pointers on what albums you think are better than this, actually. Or, like, more top tier from this group, I'm more curious about this band, and after this listen, for sure. For sure. Light strong thumbs up, bordering on light horns. Yeah, moving on. And or at least that's the end of the country-ish talk. On my end for this the country-ish half we'll call it. Moving on to Sevendust and their album Truth Killer. They're probably one of the few nu metal acts that that honestly have remained solid, that kind of ventured more into hard rock, but didn't quite completely lose their nu metal roots. Like, they tried to find like a balance between those, to more active hard rock and that, and their nu metal roots, while also kind of incorporating some newer ideas. In this case, they start to kind of add in some Meshuggah riffage. Not quite djenty necessarily, could be, but really just more Meshuggah inspired. I wouldn't go as far as to say straight up djent. this case. But yeah, I've definitely, and of course they've had hip hop influences in this case. I guess the closest thing to trap was this opener. Though I do think to me the better tracks are Truth Killer, or the title track, Everything. No Revolution is pretty dang good. I think that's one of the more Meshuggah-ish tracks. Sick Mouth definitely is too. Holy Water's was a good single. Superficial Drug was the last single they had. Messenger, Love and Hate, I definitely find one of the better ones. Fence was an okay single for me, and it's definitely not bad for a closer. But yeah, I really, though personally, I almost would have rather reversed Fence with Love and Hate a little bit. At least I love the way that it closes itself out, and I feel like it would have been a better, more finite way of doing it. Other than that, those are my only complaints, because I think this is one of their better releases. Post-season's better releases. Or at least ever since Clint Lowry's return to the band around the 2010s. This is definitely another... of the albums that to me are good, that show they started getting better with their own songwriter without Clint, was around Chapter 7 to me, and I think they got even better with bringing Clint back. But personally to me, I would actually, their S tier albums that I would recommend the most or that most people will technically be their albums from their prime days in Home and Animosity. Definitely high recommends, especially to the boss man if he sees this. Here you go. This man Kaiser from my dungeon days. We've been trying to get you into Sevendust since the one Send live stream you were on, that you were recommended from a message request at the time of the podcast, and I've been trying to find a way to do this. I don't know if I would say this is the best start, though. If this is the first thing, it's not a terrible start, but I would definitely say go to definitely give the first two tracks from the debut. Do the 1-2 punch of Black and Bitch are amazing songs, but I would definitely, for full album stuff, I would give those follow-ups Home and Animosity. But I would also like it for the more hard rock oriented, kind of closer in line sound to me, Seasons and Chapter 7. Personally, I like those. Some people don't, but I like them, and personally I think those were one of the better records as a whole. Or at least I would say Chapter 7 is the better album of the Clint Lauer, of the Sonny Mayo era, as opposed to the... But yeah, overall, yeah, I enjoyed Truth Killer. I don't know if I'd go back to it entirely. I mean, if I feel like I'm in a Sevendust mood, if we're deep in this mood, like I said, I would rather recommend the albums I just said, but with Animosity and Home. But this is still solid. It shows, I'm just happy that they're still remaining a solid band. And one of the few bands that, no matter where you start at, you'll have fun. Yeah. Moving on. Yeah, strong thumbs up to Light Horns. Why not? But it wasn't the album of the week for me. The album of the week, for me, that comes from a band that that I will talk a little more when I get to it. That album will be Mutoid Band, Mutants. Now the opener that you heard here, Call of the Void, is... initially, when I first listened to this record, I was more looking forward to this because it's a super group consisting of members of Cave In, which is how I know about this band, on top of Converge and now High on Fire. The singer of the band, that of Cave In fact, those who know, my first time getting in them was Heavy, with that band was Heavy Pendulum, and I knew about Mutoid Man and stuff in passing, but never, like, could get into them. But after having heard Heavy Pendulum and my thoughts on that, which I believe I gave honorable mentions, if not wound up putting out on the list outright for last year, if not the year before that. But this, to start with, it was a little rough. I was trying to find something to kind of seep in. I guess I just wasn't as ready for it as I thought I was with Call of the Void and Frozen Hearts. But they've grown on me since follow-up listens. But what really got me in was my third time's the charm of the tracks with Broken Glass Ceiling. And it definitely broke that glass ceiling for me on this record. And then, of course, the other singles that I did hear in passing that hyped me up for this were Siren Song, Demons. Call of the Void is considered a single, but I didn't care for it as much. I preferred Demons and Siren Song. And in fact, the vocal style of Cave In, of singer from Cave In, that was present and very heavily involved from their heavy. I kind of like the production of that record better because it's very sludgy and crusty. Very sludge. The production is definitely fitting for like sludge metal and crust punk, which technically they have similar musical characteristics with each other. Which crust punk is known to be a genre that was the foundation that evolved and became grindcore, which I don't care for. With the I've made exceptions to the rule with a couple bands from last year's albums in Cloud Rat and Wormrot. And to some degree, I guess you could kind of say this year with the recent Cattle Decapitation. But anyways, as far as this supergroup is concerned, they are very underrated, and you should be checking them out. They are for a band that is considered of genres that would technically are kind of in a niche lane. This band, there's just something about them that's not that niche. If you ever had a chance to listen to them, give them a shot. Hell, if you love your Mastodons, loved the bands that these guys were in on top of possibly Mastodon, or your even classic metals of the likes of Motorhead or Black Sabbath, or just even like the good days of Metallica, if you're even willing to include Black Album, maybe, but and even maybe some Alice in Chains in places here and there. But yeah, the vocals on here are what's really sells me and hooks me in. Both Clean and Growls are just equally done so fucking well to me, just as much as what hooked me into that Cave In record. And they're just catchy. They're super catchy for something that's supposed to be more grimy and crusty and sludgy. This is somehow has this certain super alternative metal grungy sort of catchiness to it, that is similar to what you would get out of later era Mastodon, even some Baroness for that matter. But yeah, this is like, if I were to pick a band at this point, I'm starting like, I need to check out Mutoid Man too, and even look back at Cave In stuff, and give more chances to Converge than I already have, which has been always amazing. Or at least, in my opinion, they've always been. Some people didn't like the last thing they did with the one chick that I'm forgetting the name of, because I loved Blood Moon, the Blood Moon project. But anyways, yeah, this is just so much freaking fun. Like, if you want something to explore like some more extreme kinds of metal. Hell, it's even thrashy at points, you know, just how to blend sludge and thrash together. Holy, and do it well. And be sort of kind of progressive, but not up its ass. Be catchy and fun. And the more and more I listen to it, the more I'm like, this is up there with Church of Misery. So for me, in terms of the bands of the sludgier, more stonery kind of thing, I would even go as far as to say, if you even like the King Gizzard Lizard Wizard album I reviewed, but felt you needed a little something else, I think this album will solve your problem, or this band in general. Yeah. I'm considering it an honorable mentions for sure. Not sure whether or not I'm going to have it in my album of the years, but I wouldn't put it past it, actually. Horns, light to strong horns. I'm not sure about Masterclass certification, but light to strong horns for sure. Yeah, give Mutoid Man more of a shot than whatever that fly did for my ear. I'm sorry for that. But anyways, yeah, what did you guys think of all these albums that came out that I've talked about? Which ones do you want to check out? Unrecommend. But yeah, I think, Setting Sun was a great closer, by the way, to this album. Great closer. All the musical stuff, Siphon was great. Graveyard Love just feels like a Misfits song that's by way of Mastodon, I guess. It's like, it's crazy. Like, there's just so much fun to this thing. Like, how to be weird and be catchy and fun is just something this band does. And I wonder if that's what I'm going to get from the rest of the experience of this band. Again, light to strong horns. It's up for this record. But yeah, what did you think of their other albums? Any of these albums I've recommended? Leave a comment below, let me know. As always, guys, subscribe, hit the subscribe button, click the notification bell to get all notifications. Please like and comment. Let me know what you guys think. As always, guys, keep it random, keep it real, keep it rocking. I will see you. I think I might have screwed up and I should have given keeping it reals and not thumbs up on some of those. So I apologize. Just so you know, those thumbs ups I gave, I forgot that's a little bit lower on there. I actually meant to give them keep it reals. So sorry. But anyways, keep it random, keep it random, keep it real, keep it rocking. I'll see you next video. Take care, y'all.